with that chain, man.
Good morning. We're off and running. Jesse and Anna have already been doing a bit of little things around the property, and I've been working on making a butt ton of phone calls. We're trying to get some pea gravel delivered today. Believe it or not, it's quite the challenge. Worst case, there is some that we can get delivered. It's just gonna cost us an arm and a leg, long story. So the army is fed. Jesse and Anna are running errands, grabbing some last minute things that we need to complete our work today. And I'm going to work on excavating around our footing to make sure we have room to get the drain pipe in. I actually have to go to the top of the hill to get the hoe. We have these concrete stakes laying all around our little work site. Since we're gonna have a lot of people working here tomorrow, and because it's just a good idea, our goal is to get everything out of here that isn't necessary. So Jesse's gone ahead and put these in bundles of 10, which is how we bought them, and I'm gonna wrap them up with some zip ties. Why we're working on this now instead of waiting to pour the walls is layered. One, this hillside, it's pretty stable, but we're not immune to things sloughing off. So we really don't want to do more excavation than possible. And the longer we wait, the higher our risk is of having to do a lot more digging than we'd really like to. Second, we have to have an entire waterproof membrane against the back of the wall that runs down the footing. And ideally, you do that in one swoop. And I believe we ordered membrane from Lightform to do this, except it's extremely sticky from our understanding. And once these walls are poured, we're really gonna avoid sandwiching ourselves between a hillside and a 10-foot wall. And if we try to lay this membrane from the top when it's extremely sticky, there's a good chance we're not gonna be able to get it down the wall and over the footing. Hey. And what we really want to do is get the wall poured and backfill as soon as possible, but before we do that, we have to lay the drain tile. And before we lay the drain tile, we have to have the waterproof membrane. And the waterproof membrane has to go outside of the foam that we're going to use to insulate our footing. Something that I forgot to say that I should clarify real quick. So we actually bought a second type of waterproof membrane, and to make our lives easier, we're actually going to stack the first 2 courses of ICFs. We're going to place the waterproof membrane on it, and it's okay to overlap waterproof membrane. I think code is a 2-foot overlap according to what Jesse said, so that's kind of a way we're going to get around the problem of trying to put on a waterproof membrane on a 10-foot wall onto a footing. Once we have the walls up, it's going to be a lot more challenging to get material inside, not to mention inside the perimeter is where we're going to want to be working with the material, so might as well get it in here now. Here she comes. Hey, future home. Jesse, do you know how much that cost?
600 bucks.
And $3.
Up she goes. It's 3 times what that rock should cost, but beggars can't be choosers on a Friday afternoon when the projects hold up on rock. I never saw rock being the bottleneck.
No.
Backhoe around with it all the time. That gets you way more flat.
We do our best, or we're doing our best to save money on this entire home build, but there comes a point where you just have to get a job done. Hey, we did a good job with our batter board staking. They didn't budge. Do you want to briefly explain why this was 600 whopping dollars?
Well, I guess, so I'm not an expert on drain rock, but like cleaned rock is important so that because if you have any fines in it, it'll just plug up the rock. Yep. So most of the quarries around here don't carry this pea gravel. We don't want to have to stick a shovel into like 1 inch, which is what they wanted to give us, was 1
to 2 inch.
1 to 2 inch. Try shoveling that. It's like tink tink. So they truck this stuff in from 100 miles away. They usually put it in their concrete. This is not kept for like landscaping. This is actually for a concrete mix.
Which is the type of concrete we'll have in our ICF walls.
Yeah, so this is actually what'll go in our concrete for the walls, right? So that's why it costs so much, because they truck it in from forever away, and I'm sure they get it from a landscape company. So it's just been through a lot of hands. It's not everyday crushed rock. We needed it today. Unfortunately, I didn't think that rock was gonna be the bottleneck, but it turns out somebody has a contract with like some really big deal, and every truck in the whole valley is currently moving dirt for that contract.
And the other option is to put off the entire weekend, which is going to cost us a lot of money.
In rock, yeah. Now we've got a couple of tasks, preparation tasks to do. One, we need to chalk line on the footing where our ICF is going to go. And then we need to install the frost protection on the footing. We're going to be using 2-inch EPS foam, and that'll go on the top face and the side face from that step down all the way around to the other step down. And that's the area where the foundation will be, it'll be backfilled, so it'll be below frost level, but it's pretty cheap insurance to just add a little bit of insulation to help keep the warmth in the concrete. So we've been trying to figure out an efficient way to cut 6-inch strips on this. Yep. We tried scoring it, and that worked okay, but the cut certainly wasn't super crisp or clean. So we're gonna employ the table saw just to see what happens.
Yep.
And hopefully we don't make too much of a foamy mess.
Hopefully we can make a system, and then we can just rock and roll with someone cutting it. And one or two people.
And the rest of us can work on getting the chalk lines down.
So it needs to go back. I think we decided that ripping this on the table saw works pretty well.
Seems to be okay. Yeah, this is not the high density stuff. This is not XPS, this is EPS. And the XPS, if you rip that stuff on a saw, holy smokes, what a mess. This is pretty good. Yeah, we should build a cooler out of this, or an igloo or something.
I think Jesse and Anna are going to work on this. Alyssa's too tired to operate a table saw.
Alyssa's sleepy. Sleepy people not allowed to run machinery.
Exactly. So I'm going to play with string.
Yes, Alyssa's allowed to play with her crayons and string. Yeah.
And there's caps on the rebar, so Alyssa's safe over there.
Yeah. So she's going to put the strings back up so we can get our chalk lines on the footing. And then as soon as this is cut, Anna's actually going to work on adhering this to the footing. Things are starting to kind of pick up a little bit.
I'd say we have a lot of ground to cover, but I also think so far everything's going quicker than I thought. So.
Well, I think today's been pretty productive. If we get it all done, that would be insane. Or we can go pick huckleberries.
Win-win. So if we set up our batter boards properly, they should not have moved an inch or a 1/16 of an inch even. So we're gonna string our lines back up just to check. And I believe the inside of this foam and the outside of our ICF blocks are going to be 4 inches from the string. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna transfer this down to the top of the footing, And then we're gonna measure out 4 inches on both sides, and we're gonna snap a chalk line. That'll tell us where to place the blocks and where to place the foam.
So they go from the step down this way.
So Anna is going to be placing the 4-inch, or not the 4-inch, the 8-inch foam first.
Yep.
And why is that?
So yeah, this frost protects this footing. So our footing is at frost depth. It's to code, but it's such a simple step for us. We already have the foam. I guess I'm not an expert here, but from what I understand, it's not about keeping the cold out. It's about keeping the warmth in. So by having foam on the outside of the footing like this, we'll actually have a layer of foam overlapping this on the top. So this whole entire exterior part of this footing is encased in foam. And then our membrane is gonna go up the outside, and then it's gonna start up our ICF wall. So water will come down and stay outside this foam, and then it'll hit our drain tile, and it'll exit away from the foundation. So this is just cheap insurance. I think it's a great way to look at it. So we actually researched this while we were at the hardware store, because we're trying to figure out how to adhere that foam. And this is a EPS foam compliant, low expansion adhesive foam, right? Mouthful.
Yep.
But the thing at the store said this was like 26 tubes of caulk.
Wow.
One can. It's low expanding foam.
Expands? Oh, it doesn't expand like
Right, very low expanding, but it's an adhesive, and it's compliant with EPS foam, so it doesn't eat the foam.
Do we get some of that from Lightform too?
This is from Lightform.
Oh, it is.
They provided this with our block, and it's for attaching the first row of block to the foundation and then sealing around other areas. But we can buy it locally, but if we can return the stuff we bought locally, we already own this stuff. We're not returning it. So yeah, and then you have to have the gun, the special gun, and the special cleaner. And as long as you clean the gun, it's completely reusable.
Quick, a gun unboxing, go.
Pew, pew, pew.
That's pretty fun.
I think one of the biggest mistakes you can make real quick is getting the wrong stuff. We searched quite a while at the store looking for something that was ICF and EPS foam compliant, because a lot of the stuff has solvents in it. You spray it on your foam will just disappear.
Yep.
Might be easiest to apply it to this.
That's what I was thinking.
And then at least back where it's tight. Out here I wouldn't. Forward progress. Go a little more aggressive, Anna, on adhesive. In fact, let me just take this off.
Okay.
I think it's not enough. That's better.
New can, I think.
Kind of reminds me of that like foam that kids sprayed each other.
Kind of looks like
Yes.
custard.
Yes.
Custard you don't want to eat. God, can't kick it or anything.
No.
It's like
It's
impossible.
almost like you need a rock under it or something.
It'd stay there if you can just There's like no room.
Nope. Are you pressing hard?
No.
Very light.
Very, very light.
That's nice.
If you press hard and it goes shooting off everywhere. I think we got it off on the label.
Where?
Are you good?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
It's flush. Okay.
Right there.
Oh, sure enough. Let's try something a little different.
Okay.
Put some adhesive on the concrete too.
Okay.
Gotta hold the can upside down. So it's time to draw lines for the ICFs. So our ICFs start 4 inches off of the outside of our footing. But we're not going to actually measure off of our footing because it's hard to say if our forms were perfect or not. In fact, I'll tell you right now they weren't. Instead, we're going to measure off of our lines because our lines are spot on. We're going to measure in from each of these lines 4 inches and create a new box, and that will be the inside of our ICF wall. If we square on both sides 4 inches, we should be spot on.
So you're gonna measure from that mark.
Yep.
4 inches. We got our lines marked, and now chalk line. We had to dig through the toolbox, but we finally found one long enough.
Go straight out. Don't shake it. Keep coming. You got to get all the way here. Anna, if you could get the lacquer, it's right there, and lacquer that.
Housekeeping.
Housekeeping, want mint for pillow? Housekeeping, want new bedspread? Get some sweet puddings. Okay, we need to roll this back up. We'll plumb down this line and then snap that. If you can, after you go do a 1 coat, do a 2 coat.
Yeah.
I think it'll be good.
Just
I just
so
blew
light.
hard on it and it's not coming off.
Good.
So that's
Good.
the start.
So my theory's working.
So we had an emergency. Anna ran out of clear lacquer. So Alyssa made a mad dash for the department store to try to find some lacquer. While she's gone, I've been kind of studying the plans and trying to come up with a plan of action from here. Just some time to think and realize that the things we were going to do, we were doing in the wrong order. So we were going to go around and put these pieces of top foam on right to this line that we just chalked. Which sounds good, except for the problem is then we can't get to the ICF to shim if we need to, which unfortunately we're probably going to have to. Because like where this cleat was, the concrete's nowhere near level. So we've decided to leave the top foam off until the ICF is on, then we can attach that. And then I got to looking through my notes on ICFs, and with the vertical rebar, once the wall is built, you lower the vertical rebar through the wall. And in an ideal world, it needs to be fairly adjacent to these verticals coming out of the footing. To make that possible, from that height, we're gonna cut small little collars off of just 2-inch PVC and slip them over. That way, when you lower the rebar in, you just need to get it into the collar, and that way you know it's in close proximity to this vertical. We did make a small mistake. I looked over the plans, and these rebars were supposed to be 2 inches in from the inside of the wall, so they should have been over here. So this collar will actually help solve that problem, because if we put a piece of 2-inch PVC here and we drop that vertical rebar in there, then it should be about 2 inches away from this rebar, which would be spot on for the plans. So I think we're gonna go ahead and cut those PVC collars while Alyssa's out. We wanna make sure these snap lines, these chalk lines, are permanent before we start walking and moving around on these footings so we don't rub off our lines.